Hello, everyone. So, I actually made a mistake. Yesterday, I thought we had finished chapter 10, but we still have a couple of pages left of chapter 10, and then I will continue on and read chapter 11 as well. So, yesterday, when we left off, we had just been with Charlie and he had seen something in the snow. I was speculating, thinking it might be one of the golden tickets, but let's read on and see what Charlie had actually seen in the snow. The paper was of a greenish colour, and there was something vaguely familiar about it. Charlie stepped off the curb and bent down to examine it. Part of it was buried under the snow, but he saw at once what it was. It was a dollar bill. Quickly, he looked around him. Had somebody just dropped it? No, that was impossible because of the way part of it was buried. Several people went hurrying past him on the sidewalk, their chins sucked deep into the collars of their coats, their feet crunching in the snow. None of them was searching for any money. None of them was taking the slightest notice of the small boy crouching in the gutter. Then, was it his dollar bill? Could he have it? Carefully, Charlie pulled it from under the snow. It was damp and dirty, but otherwise perfect. A whole dollar. He held it tightly between his shivering fingers, gazing down at it. It meant one thing to him at that moment, only one thing. It meant food. Automatically, Charlie turned and began moving toward the nearest shop. It was only 10 paces away. It was a newspaper and stationery store, the kind that sells almost everything, including candy and cigars. And what he would do, he whispered quickly to himself, he would buy one luscious bar of candy and eat it all up, every bit of it, right then and there. And the rest of the money he would take straight home and give it to his mother. So chapter 11 now is called The Miracle. So a miracle is when something amazing happens, something that you think is not possible, and it happens. So what could this miracle be for Charlie? Charlie entered the store and laid the damp dollar bill on the counter. "One Wonka's Whipple Scrumptious Fudge Mallow Delight," he said, remembering how much he had loved the one he had on his birthday. The man behind the counter looked fat and well fed. He had big lips and fat cheeks and a very fat neck. The fat around his neck bulged out all around the top of his collar like a rubber ring. He turned and reached behind him for the candy jar. Then he turned back again and handed it to Charlie. Charlie grabbed it and quickly tore off the wrapper and took an enormous bite. Then he took another bite. And another. Oh, the joy of being able to cram large pieces of something sweet solid into one's mouth. The sheer blissful joy of being able to fill one's mouth with such rich, solid food. "You look like you wanted that one, sonny," the shopkeeper said pleasantly. Charlie nodded, his mouth bulging with chocolate. The shopkeeper put Charlie's change on the counter. "Take it easy," he said. "It'll give you a gut ache if you swallow it like that without chewing." Charlie went on wolfing the candy. He couldn't stop. And in less than half a minute, the whole thing had disappeared down his throat. He was quite out of breath, but he felt marvellously, extraordinarily happy. He reached out a hand to take the change. Then he paused. His eyes were just above the level of the counter. They were staring at the little silver coins lying there. The coins were all dimes. There were 9 of them altogether. Surely it wouldn't matter if he spent just one more. "I think," he said quietly, "I think I'll have just one more of those candy bars. The same kind as before, please." "Why not?" the fat shopkeeper said, reaching behind him again, taking another Whipple Scrumptious Fudge Mallow Delight from the shelf. He laid it on the counter. Charlie picked it up and tore off the wrapper, and suddenly from underneath the wrapper there came a brilliant flash of gold. Charlie's heart stood still. "It's a golden ticket!" screamed the shopkeeper, leaping about a foot in the air. "You've got a golden ticket! You've found the last one!" Everybody wanted to get a look at the golden ticket and at the lucky finder. "Where is it?" somebody shouted. "Hold it up so all of us can see." "There it is," somebody else shouted. He's holding it in his hands. See the gold shining? How did he manage to find it? I'd like to know. How did he manage to find it? I'd like to know, a large boy shouted angrily. 20 bars a day I've been buying for weeks and weeks. Think of all the free stuff he'll be getting too, another boy said enviously. A lifetime supply. He'll need it, the skinny little shrimp, a girl said laughing. Charlie hadn't moved. He hadn't even unwrapped the golden ticket from around the candy bar. He was standing very still, holding it tightly with both hands while the crowd pushed and shouted all around him. He felt quite dizzy. There was a peculiar floating sensation coming over him, as though he were floating up in the air like a balloon. His feet didn't seem to be touching the ground at all. He could hear his heart thumping away loudly somewhere in his throat. At that point, he became aware of a hand resting lightly on his shoulder, and when he looked up, he saw a tall man standing over him. "Listen," the man whispered, "I'll buy it from you. I'll give you $50. How about it, eh? And I'll give you a new bicycle as well, okay?" "Are you crazy?" shouted a woman who was standing equally close. "Why, I'd give him $500 for that ticket." "You want to sell that ticket for $500, young man? That's quite enough of that," the fat shopkeeper said, pushing his way through the crowd and taking Charlie firmly by the arm. "Leave the kid alone, will you? Make way there, let him out." And to Charlie, as he led him to the door, he whispered, "Don't let anybody have it. Take it straight home quickly before you lose it. Run all the way and don't stop till you get there. You understand?" Charlie nodded. "You know something?" the fat shopkeeper said, pausing for a moment and smiling at Charlie. "I have a feeling you need a break like this. I'm awfully glad you got it. Good luck to you, sonny." "Thank you," Charlie said, and off he went, running through the snow as fast as his legs would go. And as he flew past Mr. Willy Wonka's factory, he turned and waved at it and sang, "I'll be seeing you, I'll be seeing you." And 5 minutes later, he arrived at his home. So that is the end of chapter 11. And amazingly, Charlie has got the 5th golden ticket. So he is the lucky 5th winner. And now the whole lineup is complete. There are 5 children who are going to visit Willy Wonka's factory. So I wonder what Charlie's family are going to say now when they hear about his winnings. I wonder, will they try and sell it though? Because Charlie wants to keep it, I think, now after what the shopkeeper said. But $500, that would be so much money for his family, especially when they're so hungry. So I think there might be a bit of a dilemma. They might have a question now in the next chapter to look at. So I hope you enjoyed chapter 11 and the end of chapter 10. And we're going to continue on with chapter 12 tomorrow. So thank you very much.